Hello, Tadeo.
Nania.
Have lots of great questions from our listeners today.
All right.
Okay, so the first question is, when we talk about open contact, I assume we are currently in a time of closed contact. But when you speak about our early history, it seems ETs and humans interacted openly then. When exactly did the ETs leave us and hence close our contact? And why did they leave?
We have never left, but the idea of observation as opposed to interaction became necessary when you reach a certain point in your evolution as a species to allow you the opportunity to grow, to discover, to self empower without relying on ETs. The idea is then to see if you would evolve to a point where once again contact could occur after you had become more independent, more self-sufficient.
And in keeping with the Halloween spirit, after Atlantis fell, you have said that Noah was given instructions by ETs to build his boat. How many animals were on it, and how did they get along? And if Noah had not done so, does this mean that many of our current animals today would not exist?
First of all, there was more than one being that you are collectively referring to as Noah.
Mhm.
There were many such vehicles that departed and went in different directions. This is why you have flood stories in almost every culture on your planet that are very similar to one another about a being in some kind of water vehicle that managed to survive the flood, carrying families and animals with them. So this happened in many different directions, and all of the different so-called Noahs, of course, who had different names, all landed in different areas. So the idea is, yes, had that not happened, there would be certain animals that wouldn't be among you today. But the idea is that there was a disbursement of many different kinds of species into different areas on your planet. And this was done by many different individuals who created many different kinds of crafts.
So I guess our version of it today is where we save all the DNA from all the different species so that if something cataclysmic happens.
Yes. And in some cases, some of the animals were, in fact, nothing more than DNA at the time.
Um, Despite increasingly negative global behavior, people in my reality are raising their vibrations all the time. And it's so fun to see. I know this is a function of the splitting prism effect, but how might I experience further splitting despite conflict elsewhere growing?
Follow the formula. That is why we give it to you all. It simplifies things. It contains everything you need. It navigates you in the direction you need to go and constantly raises your frequency. Follow it as precisely as you can. That's all you need to do.
Okay, and are the hybrid children interested in our celebration of Halloween? Um, that might seems exciting to be able to celebrate that with them somehow to this person.
In some senses, although it would not necessarily be experienced by them in the same way, since they can actually communicate with the spirits of the dead, literally directly. So a celebration of the idea of spirit is how they would mostly perceive it. Communication with and celebration of life with spirit is how they would perceive and express it.
And did the Greys have any equivalent to Halloween in their culture?
Well, remember that they used to be human, and
Right.
therefore Long ago, yes, they had something similar in their history, but not after they became the Greys, not after they mutated. No.
Okay. And at the Sedona event, you told a questioner that the entities encountered on any type of DMT enhanced experience were an astral version of the Greys. Does this mean that anyone taking that substance prior to the hybridization agenda would have encountered other beings or would have not encountered any beings at all?
Well, first of all, it takes a very specific dosage to encounter them because they exist at a very specific frequency that is commensurate with that dosage. Secondly, no one was taking DMT in the way that you are talking about it before the idea of the hybridization agenda. This was long ago that it began. Even though there were people experiencing certain forms of altering substances in nature, there was no specific dosage that anyone took that allowed them to encounter the astral grays at that specific frequency until such time as the grays showed up in your reality and became part of your archetypal consciousness.
Okay, can you explain what a black hole is and what's inside of it?
It depends on the type of black hole. Some of them can be gateways to other universes. Some of them can be concentrations of information. It depends on the type of black hole.
Okay. And we call the idea of spaceships ships or UFOs or flying saucers. What does your civilization call the vehicles you travel around the universe in?
Shakiri.
And at the recent Sedona weekend, you said your ship was above Bell Rock at an elevation of 1,000 feet. A few seconds later, it descended down to 700. Were any people able to see it, or was it invisible to everyone? And if it was invisible, do you use some kind of a cloaking technology?
We simply alter our frequency that is usually beyond the range of your senses. So it's not exactly a cloak in the way that you mean it technologically. It is simply a frequency that most of you cannot perceive because we are shifted into a slightly altered reality.
And were there people able to see your ship when you did that drop down to 700 feet, or was it um,
There are those who might have been able to see it, but they were not present in the area.
and you said that there is an ET ship above Cathedral Rock in Sedona. I went there and sensed Arcturian energy. Can you tell us if there's an Arcturian ship above Cathedral Rock? And if not them, who is it?
There is Arcturus energy in the area, but they don't have ships as you understand the concept. It's more a projection of consciousness. So, yes, they are present energetically, but it's not exactly a ship as you understand these things. Sirius is also involved, so are Pleiadians, and many others in the Sedona area.
Okay. And as we get closer to open contact, the splitting prism is becoming more and more obvious, with many more examples of very positive and very negative energy and behavior, which we can observe through glass walls. You've often described how at some point we won't be able to perceive those realities because they'll be too incompatible with our vibration. Mechanically speaking, are there certain specific deciding factors that determine when something of a very different vibration effectively vanishes from somebody's reality? And if so, could you name some of those factors?
One of the factors is whether or not it's still relevant for someone to perceive someone else that may be exhibiting a very different vibration. They may still contain within the overall formula of what they are energetically as a pattern indications that they still need to perceive those kinds of attributes in another person for some reason of their own. It may be for the purpose of assisting that person. It may be for the purpose of getting a reflection from that person that they need in their own life. There can be many different factors that may allow someone to still retain the ability to perceive another, even though their vibrations may be very far apart.
Okay. And in connection to Halloween and the anniversary of the destruction of Atlantis, would a future Halloween be a pivotal point for our current timeline?
Yes, it will be, especially with the coming of the hybrids, and especially as humanity opens up to its spiritual side more strongly. We will, to some degree, talk about this in the upcoming transmission in your Las Vegas area.